Hey YouTube, Kyle here. So we've had snow constantly for like 3 weeks and it's super deep. So being that deep, they're just hard to use the old tractors to work with. But anyway, haven't posted anything for a while, so I thought I'd post something to show the Model A a little bit, maybe just some of the details. The Model A was a pretty popular tractor. It had three body style revisions. The first was the unstyled, which came out in, I believe, 34, and then it had the early styled and then the late styled. This is actually a late styled model, and in the late styled it also had a few revisions as well. This is the later revision, and it's easier to tell. A couple things: it's got a distributor instead of the magneto. The gear shifter has the single lever shift quadrant, whereas the earlier Model A's had the two sticks. It had a high-low, and then it had the gear shifter. And also you can tell the late models of the late style by the square back axle. So when we walk around here, you can see it's got the square axle. So I'm just gonna go over a couple things about the Model A. This is just all out of my head, so I apologize if I have any of the details wrong. It's about a 34 horsepower at the drawbar and 38 horsepower at the belt. Here comes Vanilla. That's my little German Shepherd puppy's girlfriend. This is a cute little poodle though. So this Model A right here, these little nubs are for hooking up the mower. Okay, and this rear end right here, they had three different types on these. They have what's called a flat back, which was nothing, basically, just a cover. And then they had a lift that was just to run the rocker arms. And then this revision can run the rocker arms, but it can also do hydraulics. So you'll see I plumbed in these quick attach couplers so we can use our more modern hydraulics with it. Don't focus. There we go. Another thing about the Model A, right here is the plug for the transmission oil. I know a lot of people always say, well, just go read your manual, but you know, manuals are good, but sometimes they're hard to get a hold of. So if you just barely picked up a Model A, hopefully this video can be useful. I'll try to point out some things for you. The drain plug for the transmission is right there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but basically the drain plug, if you want to drain these out, is on the other side, right? Oh, I have another right here. That's Tristan and then Dusty walking around. This light here also, I don't think it has it on this one, but it has a little red light dot in it. Let's see if that works. I don't remember. Yeah, so there you go. So it has two bulbs in it. You can switch with this lever to the road bulb or the working bulb. This is actually, there we go, focus on that a little bit. You can see the red bulb in there. That's an LED bulb that I have. I've put all LEDs on here because it uses less energy. You go around to the front, you can see the LEDs too. And I spent a long time trying to find the brightest bulbs that would fit in the same housing in the glass. Anyway, they're nice bright bulbs. Here's a lever to turn that on and off, the lights. You'll see this one also has a key. Again, the key was added with the one at the distributor. So if you have an earlier Model A, you won't have that. Let's just go around here since we're here. Ugh. So here's the gear shifting quadrant. Now this is the same quadrant that they used on the 60, the 620, and the 630. Okay, so reverse, 4, 2, 6, 3, and 5. Again, on these tractors, you do have to come to a complete stop, and you have to use the brake on the clutch. So right now, so that you see it's got that little foot right there. So if I pull this back, see it'll break it. So you got to make sure nothing's moving when you shift gears on these. If we go back to the tractor, so you have a couple different gauges. You have your water temperature, your amperes, your amps, and your oil pressure. Now, speaking of water temperature, the 2 cylinders, at least during the beginning, the initial run, were all what they called thermal flow. So right here is your water to your radiator. Your hot water would rise just because hot items rise. So it would rise and it would push water up to the radiator, and then that radiator would cool it down, and so you'd have the cold water go into the motor, and that would just create this circular movement of the water. Now, later on these tractors, when they can increase the horsepower a little bit, they realized that they needed a little bit more cooling, so they added a pump. Now this one actually has, I don't know if you can see it right there. There we go. So this one does have a water pump. And you can see the fan belt right here, how it's triangular shaped. That's because it goes around to the bottom of the pump. Again, inside there's the radiator. You'll notice it has shutters. Okay, so I'll go back to the front and show you. So it has these 2 levers. This is your throttle lever here on the top. This is your radiator. They'd usually use the radiator shutters for the all fuels because they had to heat them up to operating temperature. And the gas only ones, I just don't think they were ever used. So I've never, and then once they switched everything to gas, they pretty much quit using it altogether as well. So most radiator shutter levers are pretty much frozen. So here's your fuel bowl. Now a typical Model A will have a fuel bowl that has an on-off valve on it, which I prefer. This one came with the automatic shut-off, so it takes pressure from your oil pressure line, hits a baffle in there that opens that up. And the reason I don't like this is because on my 630 it had that when I first got it. It was broken, and so it was actually pushing fuel back in and into the crank. So a lot of people don't like these. They're okay, just keep a good eye on it, make sure you're not getting fuel into your crank. And here's your choke lever, goes down to your carburetor. Okay, this tractor does have independent brakes. So that's what these levers are, 1 on each side. Super easy to work on, just 3 bolts, pop the whole thing off, do it about any work you need to. This right here is a brake adjustment. So if you need to tighten or loosen the brake, just turn that in or out. Here's the starter lever. Now the starter, this piece here was actually changed as well. I don't know if it was exactly when they went to the square axles, but it does look a little bit different on the earlier models. I believe it's more roundish and pushes kind of straight down. Dogs are having fun, they keep distracting me. At least they entertain each other. Focus. Going back to the tractor, you'll notice this one here has a single pedestal. You'll hear the phrase split pedestal or single pedestal. The split pedestals are split right here for a wide front. And also they had a roll-o-matic that attached. The roll-o-matic was all an integral piece between here and here. But this one's a single pedestal. It does have a roll-o-matic as well. But this is the roll-o-matic that is made for the single pedestal, or the single piece pedestal and not the split pedestal. So the roll-o-matic's pretty cool. It gives it what they call a knee action. So one wheel would lift and then the other one would kind of go down. And I actually put this roll-o-matic on it. I bought it online, so it's not standard with the tractor, because in the spring when the manure freezes, where I use this tractor to feed with, it gets super, super bumpy. But so every bump you hit, the entire tractor would lift up and down. Well, with this, it keeps constant pressure between both tires. And as one tire lifts, the front end of the tractor only goes half the distance. You'll notice also on this tractor, it has these weighted hubs. There and there. Those did come with this tractor. I switched those over and put them on the Roll-O-Matic. They are, I assume they're original. They're in the parts book, so it was a genuine John Deere option. Here's your coolant cap for your radiator, your exhaust pipe, your air intake pipe, your fuel cap. A couple other little things. When I was talking about the back end, I forgot to mention. Here's the plug for your back hydraulics. So you need to make sure that this is full. Now by full, I mean, here's the petcock. So open that up, fill oil up until it starts to come out there, close it. That's a drain. With these couplers, you have this lever here, which puts pressure on the lock. So if you want to take these out, you pull this out, and then you can pop these out. And then you have to put plugs in if you want to use the rocker arms. Because right now it defaults to the path of least resistance. So if I was to run a ram with this connected, it'll run the ram first. If I keep holding that lever in and the ram extends all the way, then it'll all of a sudden switch over and you'll be able to move your rocker arms, but that's probably not what you're wanting. So you'll switch out the other plugs, which I have a video of that as well. Maybe I'll edit and put some of that in so you can see what that looks like. This thing right here is just a hydraulic cylinder holder. These are kind of new, believe it or not. The old ones, you'd actually thread them in, so you'd lose a lot of oil every time you'd switch your hydraulics. They didn't have the nice quick couplers like we have now. So basically it was easier to unhook your ram from your implement than it was to unhook your hoses. So you would unhook the ram from whatever you're using and you would just put it right here to hold it. Oddly enough, even all the way up to the 4640, they still kept the cylinder holder. For your crankcase oil, you'll open this cap right here. And this right here is also a level petcock. So you'll open this up, put oil in until it drains out, and then close it, close everything up. This right here is the cover for the oil pressure adjustment. So if you need a little bit higher oil pressure, take this out, take a flathead screwdriver, take it in a notch. You can feel it. It's just kind of notched in there. It's got like a little place for a flathead screwdriver. As you turn it, you can feel it. I believe clockwise to tighten. So just, go a couple notches, check your oil pressure, and go from there. Spark plugs. If you're not very familiar with the two-cylinder, they're a pretty cool design. They're two quite large pistons that sit horizontal. So they sit this way. And then right here where this belt pulley is, this belt pulley connects directly to the crank. And the belt pulley also connects the transmission to the moving parts of the crank. Basically, you have gearing in here that mesh your movement from your crank to the transmission. See, there's another gear that sits right here. It connects everything back there. Oh yeah, I almost forgot this lever. So this lever is to engage the PTO pump. Now, you can't engage the PTO pump with your clutch and everything moving. So you have to, if you're forward and this is turning, make sure you pull this back, stop it, and then push this lever over. That will engage your PTO. Now the PTO also drives a hydraulic pump. So if we go back to the back, so here's your PTO, and your hydraulic pump sits right here. Now you'll hear the term live hydraulics and live PTO. This tractor does not have a live PTO. That means if you engage your clutch and you pull that lever back, stop that belt pulley from moving, your PTO will stop. You no longer have hydraulics and you no longer have a working PTO. So if you need to inch something, you're pulling a baler or something, you need to inch it. Every time you're pulling that clutch lever back, you're stopping your baler. Also the same if you have a loader or a plow. For example, I have a hydraulic two-bottom plow that I pulled. If you're going and you need to stop, you have to pull that lever back, come to a stop, put it in neutral, put the lever forward, which re-engages your hydraulic pump. Then you lift your plow. Then you pull the lever back again to stop everything so you can put it in gear. Then you put it in gear, then you go. So anyway, it's a lot of work. That's why they came up with what's called the live hydraulics. So you could pull, like on the 60, 620, 630, you could pull that clutch lever back, and then you're still able to adjust your hydraulics because they actually run that off of a pump off the governor. Miscellaneous stuff about the A. I believe they made it from 34 to 52. This is a 50 model, so it's closer to the end. Might be 51, I'll have to look and see. It's easy to forget when you've got a couple of them. But anyway, one of my favorite tractors just because it's kind of the ideal two-cylinder, I guess. They were not too focused yet on the new gen. I believe around early 50s, they were already pretty much heavy in development in the new gen models. So underneath here, so this is your oil filter. So when you change your oil, you need to drop this out, drain all your oil out first, which you can do by that right there. Here's the drain plug. So drain all the oil out, then take the filter out, put a new filter on, put the plug back in, fill it all up with new oil. And along with that, almost every two-cylinder tractor that I picked up, if I pick them up in the winter, their axles are usually frozen. So make sure when you pick up a new tractor, drain all the fluids, put all new fluid in, because they do get some condensation in them. They build up water. If you're like us here where you're frozen almost half the year, it's a lot easier to drain that out when it's warm than after it's already frozen and you realize you got a stuck tractor for the next few months. So this right here is your drawbar for pulled implements. It is a swinging drawbar. You can move it, take these bolts out here, you can move it side to side. That's what you hook up a wagon to, a baler, whatever. Make sure you also grease up your tractors good. The axles have grease zerks on them. There's various grease zerks on the moving parts of the tractor. The Roll-O-Matic has some, steering has some. Anyway, that is a good spot to look at your manual and just make sure you go through and hit every spot. Anyway, I hope that answers most of your questions about the Model A. Like I say, if you just picked up a Model A, then I hope you found this video useful. So this is kind of pure two-cylinder, no frills, but just a good hard-working machine, reliable, not a lot of parts, easy to work on. And as such, if you need a good starter tractor, a Model A or Model B, highly recommended. Can't go wrong with them as one of my favorites. Anyway, I'll also show some other footage of the tractor in use the past, month or so. So hopefully you enjoy that. And yeah, if you have an opportunity to pick up an A, I highly recommend it. I think you'll be quite impressed. So that is the John Deere Model A. One thing I forgot to talk about was the steering. The steering wheel is obvious on this tractor, but it also is a manual steering, so it does not have power steering. Hope you like and subscribe. Thank you.